Now it's recording.
Who's in the other room?
On videotape.
Alright.
Have you ever met someone who has been a victim of domestic violence? Even if the answer to that is no, then actually there's a good chance you probably have. Domestic violence is a common theme in many households, but it can go unnoticed for months, years, or even a lifetime. Statistics from the Illinois Department of Public Health states that 1 in 4 women will be a victim of domestic violence at some point during their life. Domestic violence is the single most major cause of injury to women, but it goes so unnoticed in our society. There are many signs and symptoms of domestic violence, and some of them are more obvious than others. The most obvious sign is like bruises and other bodily injury, and the abuser might make the violence obvious by giving bruises and stuff like that because he wants his victim to feel trapped and embarrassed, like so she can't leave the house. If the victim ends up having to leave the house, then she's usually embarrassed, and people will ask her where the bruises and stuff come from, and she'll lie and say she fell down the stairs or ran into something because she doesn't want anyone to find out. Personality changes in a person can also signify abuse in a household. An individual who is naturally outgoing with high self-confidence may start to be really quiet and shy in public around her abuser because she's so afraid of acting out because she's afraid of the abuse in the future. She has low self-esteem because her abuser makes her feel like she's not worth anything at all. The National Coalition Against Domestic Violence states that a woman changes her personality when she's abused because she's just so afraid of the future abuse, and she's also afraid that her partner will start making accusations against her for cheating on her and flirting with other men and stuff like that. On the contrary, an individual might become a perfectionist and make everything in her life perfect to make up for her lack of intimate relationship with her husband. Domestic violence can have a very big emotional, mental, and psychological impact on a person. It is common for a woman to turn to substance abuse when she's being the victim of domestic violence because she feels like alcohol will help solve her problems. It's also really common for that to turn into a long-term thing. Victims of domestic violence can even end up losing their jobs because they miss work because of all the violence in their household. They also may lose their friends, family, and other systems of support because they're embarrassed and they start to isolate themselves. Friends and family also end up leaving because they grow frustrated because the woman won't leave her partner and they don't know what to do for her anymore. Domestic violence not only ends up affecting the women, but it also ends up affecting the children in their relationship. The children start to feel guilty that it's their fault and that they can't do anything because their mother is being abused. According to Amnesty International, 1/3 of all children who have domestic violence in their households end up growing up with emotional problems themselves. Boys who watch their fathers abuse their mothers are 10 times more likely to become abusive in the future. It's also been proven that children who grew up with domestic violence are more likely to have substance abuse problems later in life. There are many ways that you can help a woman who is the victim of domestic violence. First, you can get involved and become more active in her life and not share the common belief that domestic violence is a private matter between two people. You can offer her and her children a place to stay or help direct them to a shelter, and you can also encourage the woman to leave her partner and get help from a police officer, a counselor, or a social worker. You can also be a good friend and lend an ear because this will be a very trying time in a woman's life. It's very important to make sure the woman knows that it is not her fault because it's very common for women to blame domestic violence on themselves. It's very important to remember that domestic violence doesn't have to be just physical abuse, but emotional abuse as well. Being the victim of domestic violence can be very taxing and stressful. If we all started taking a stand against domestic violence, the women everywhere would be able to come forward more instead of feeling dumb and embarrassed and scared. Statistically speaking, a woman is battered every 15 seconds in the United States. If someone you knew and loved was a victim of domestic violence, wouldn't you want someone to help them? Domestic violence is a very common thing in households everywhere, and we need to start taking a stand as a society.